Steven, my boy. Steven, my boy, is back in the news, and he decided to go on his platform. And for some reason, it sounded like he was issuing a throwdown and a challenge, right? Because there was an article that was written about him, specifically about First Take, which is a show that is his and that he pilots and that he oversees. Specifically, I believe that First Take was the show that he kicked Max Kellerman off of. It was a show that basically him and Skip Bayless had came together off of. I'm not sure if it was called First Take back then. But him and Skip Bayless had a good thing going. Skip Bayless left, started Undisputed. He still kept First Take. They struggling a little bit. So Stephen A has some things to say about some people that had some criticism about him and what First Take was becoming and whether or not he could still compete in the marketplace. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. I'm going to skim through this a little bit.
You don't hear me attacking certain subjects very, very often.
And I'm going to speed it up a little bit also.
One of those subjects is anything pertaining to First Take, ESPN, what's written. I pride myself on being a big boy. I can take it. It doesn't matter to me what people say most of the time. And I'll confess to you, one of the biggest reasons it doesn't matter is because I know at any given moment I can reach out and touch folks anytime I want to. So why do I need to worry about it? But there
Stephen A be talking big shit, don't he?
are certain times where enough's enough.
Y'all said that the name was Cold Pizza. Yeah, it was Cold Pizza. And then they changed it over. You're right.
Enough's enough. And, you know, I've listened to quite a few people over the last few weeks, particularly.
And I'll be reading Super Chats throughout the show. I appreciate everybody that's holding me down. Thank you to Tazzy, big time, dog.
Since the layoffs occurred at ESPN, especially Dan Le Batard, who I'll get into in just a few minutes. But, you know, The Athletic wrote some article about ESPN's First Take.
I'm going to speed it up a little bit more.
The article was entitled, Skip and Stephen A. Embraced Debate, Played the Hits, and Changed TV. Sounds very flattering. Very touching, I might add. If you just read the headline, it sounds very touching. Don't y'all agree? Y'all don't y'all agree? It seems very, very touching, right? When you're emotionally taken back by the headline, I mean, really, really nice. Until you read the damn thing. And when you read it, it was basically a puff piece and an endorsement for Skip Bayless. Now, let me say something.
I think that Skip Bayless, I shouldn't say this because then they're going to say that I'm picking a white man over the black man. I think that Skip Bayless is more talented when it comes to putting together platforms from scratch than Stephen A. Smith. I think that Skip Bayless puts on a better product. I don't know if you want to call it talent. I don't want to know if you want to call it identifying talent. Skip Bayless put on Stephen A. Smith. Skip Bayless put on Shannon Sharp. I think that Skip Bayless, when he get on vacation, he going to surprise y'all and he going to put on something else that's great too. I think that y'all going to put some respect on Skip Bayless' name. I think that Skip Bayless is definitely one of the GOATs.
I have no problem. What a nice piece for Skip Bayless. Haven't spoken in a while. We haven't worked together for 7 years. As I repeated and reiterated on this show and various others, I will always be grateful for what Skip Bayless has done for my career. Regardless of how Charles Barkley feels about him or a plethora of athletes or other people, you're not going to get me to throw shade on my guy. We don't have to speak very often. We live two completely different lives. We're very, very busy and all of this other stuff. But the one thing that I have never failed to acknowledge is that Skip Bayless jump-started First Take. And he will always be synonymous with First Take. So anybody that wants to give him love for that, I don't have a problem with it. I'd be the first to do it. But when you write a piece like The Athletic did, and you're quoting everybody from Jamie Horowitz to Skip Bayless to Rob Parker to Rochelle Marcazine to former producer Kevin Reeder, to Jay Crawford, to John Skipper, they're all gone from ESPN.
So basically what they telling you, Stephen A. Smith, is that you ain't got the juice, big dog. They saying that you not him. You are not Himothy. They saying that the fact that Undisputed was whooping y'all ass First Take, and the fact that a lot of these other podcasts that's upcoming, and Pat McAfee, and the fact that a lot of people are going from the network is showing that you're not really doing the thing that you should be doing as far as competing with the numbers, big dog. Your show is not as... Yo, how many people is tuned in to First Take in the morning outside of whatever a big headline is? How many people is tuned in to First Take in the mornings outside of a big headline or just watching it as a clip on YouTube? Very few people are doing that. But I want to hear what he got to say.
Great people. I talk to Jamie Horowitz all the time. Rochelle's one of the most wonderful women you'd ever want to meet in your life. John Skipper and I just spoke the other day. I'm not throwing any shade on them. I'm saying when you're writing a piece, and it's supposed to be about First Take, and you're talking about everybody from the past, what exactly is it that you're trying to say? We got an executive VP at ESPN who has overlooked and overseen ESPN for the last 6.5 years minimum.
That shit been trash on the low. Shout out to Jonica Brown. I'm gonna be reading that super chat shortly. That shit's been trash, low key. For the last 6.5 years, whoever has been stewarding and overseeing what's happening on production over on ESPN is just absolutely trash, man. I mean, if we just gonna keep it 100.
There is one sentence from him. Talking to me was like damn near pulling teeth. I mean, let's just call it like it is. And not only was that the truth, but it was also like, yo, the days of past. And this is what First Take is. First Take has changed over the years. But that's not why I bring up this subject.
For the worse.
I bring up this subject because whether it's Skip, who's going to be back on the air on Undisputed on August 28th, there's a promo. Whether it's
Connie said First Take's ratings are higher than Undisputed even before Shannon left. I'm not when I evaluate the greatness of a show, and you got to remember, Connie, one of the reasons why it's important to take context into consideration is, well, who's your core audience? How did they build it? Are they building it from scratch? Did they leapfrog off of advertising dollars and coming up, you know what I'm saying, building it and how it's being built, new talent, what platforms is it being viewed on? Because see, one person can say, oh, okay, well, First Take is better than Undisputed based off of the numbers. But I would say that that's a deceptive analogy because Undisputed was its own entity. See, First Take, even when it comes to YouTube, right, and stuff like that, right, and I study these things. First Take is largely leaning on Disney and ESPN's prowess to promote it, right? And this is why when you start to see a lot of these dudes go on YouTube and stuff like that, it's a completely different conversation because their ability to be able to generate revenue and audiences is largely leaning off of that machine that they come from. But here's the thing. First Take and a lot of their content is not based off of a First Take separate channel. They leveraged ESPN's already big user base and subscriber base, which I'm glad that YouTube is now changing the algorithm a little bit differently and that you got to put out good content that people like and want to continue to look for versus just automatically as being recommended to you because First Take leaned on what Disney and ESPN had already built in order to continue to try to push those numbers up, right? But when you seen what happened with Undisputed and the content and what people were talking about and how they built that from scratch and who was being copied as far as duplicate channels trying to permit trying to create the same thing and all of that other type of stuff. Undisputed was exponentially growing further, right? They built theirs from scratch. Fox Sports Radio is completely different than the Undisputed channel, right? Which is completely separate from how Disney manages their stuff and that ESPN puts their stuff up there separately, right? So you talking about a legacy audience or a legacy platform that's leveraging, which they should, and I don't think that it's a bad strategy, but when you're talking about the pulse of the streets and the people and what's growing, one of the reasons why analysts, and here's a key for y'all, and this is how y'all can look at another metric when you're trying to determine what it is that you want to invest in. One of the key metrics is growth, right? Because if you're just comparing ratings, it's deceptive, but you have to start looking at key measurements when it comes to growth. And when you're looking at growth, one of the reasons why investors tend to reward companies for growth, and one of the reasons why you start to look at different companies, start to break out different segments of how it is that they're reporting to the general audience every quarter, is because they know that investors are looking at what it is that people are looking to do long term. So, for example, we know that Apple, and this is a completely different situation, but I'm going to bring it back into what we're talking about right now. We know that Apple already has a mature market when it comes to growth with the iPhone, right? But Apple has one of the biggest growing segments when it comes to the services division. And so investors and analysts are rewarding Apple not just with their new products that they're bringing out, but also different parts of their businesses in which they grow, in which Apple is still trying to grow the iPhone market over in India and China. But my point is that growth is a better metric to see what the pulse of the streets is and what the projection of the company is going to be versus day-to-day ratings, right? Because if you're looking at ESPN, their ratings are actually going down, which is one of the reasons why they got rid of all the talent and they can't sell the same level of advertising, and Disney was looking to do the layoffs. So I don't just look at it just based off of numbers on TV, because most of the people that got a pulse on what's going on, they don't even watch TV anymore, right? The different ways in which ESPN is starting to promote, they don't even know how to package ESPN properly with their new Disney Plus package, right? And so what I'm trying to break down to y'all is you need to look at the metrics a little bit differently from just looking at the numbers purely based off of what's being shown on TV. That's all I'm saying. I just want to break it down to you.
Somebody talking about the days of yesteryear, whether it's The Athletic today, whether it's some other outlet another day, whether it's Dan Le Batard another day, you know.
Reading that super chat shortly. I'm reading all super chat shortly. Shout out to Eileen.
First Take is mine, baby. And it's Molly Qerim's. You ever heard of a guy named Pete McConville? You haven't. Do you know that when First Take was Cold Pizza before it got named First Take, there was a debate segment within the show Cold Pizza? It was created and produced by Pete McConville, who's now a big-time producer for First Take. Along with my man Tom DeCourty, along with my man James Dunn, miss my man Antoine Lewis. Casualty of the layoffs, God bless him. Did a great job for us for a decade. But it's a different day.
When you talk about layoffs a lot of time, you got to understand this. When it comes to entertainment, which is completely different from production, when it comes to entertainment, you don't lay off people that are producing. You don't lay off people that are producing. You don't go cheaper. You don't do none of that. You give the bag to the... That's why Pat McAfee got such a big bag. It's not that they laid everybody off because they needed to get rid of people. Is that they're trying to rebrand and redo how it is that they do things from a business perspective and allocating that same budget over into the people that's already producing.
And when I sit around and I listen to people bloviate about where ESPN, it used to be this way. What the hell y'all talking about? What you talking about past tense for? We ain't going anywhere. The reason why I wanted to start the day off with this subject on this podcast is because I see the promos for other people. I get the impression of what people are wishing for. I'm not going away. I thought, fellas.
Just the other day, Stephen A was talking about might be me getting laid off next. Either somebody put the battery in his back and said, listen, man, you're not getting laid off. Stop talking that shit. Put your big boy pants on. Because literally, just last week, Stephen A dropped on this very same thing. And he said, listen, maybe me next. Shout out to all of my colleagues. So either he was gaslighting and he was trying to put himself in a position to where he can get a bigger bag or whatever, so on and so forth. Or now he decided to put his big boy pants on and start to compete, which I like this shit. I like this version of Stephen A. Smith because now we're saying, listen, all right, y'all want to compete? Y'all think y'all better than me? I see y'all promos. I see what it is that y'all trying to build. We gonna see who gonna do the bigger. We gonna see who gonna put on the best product. We gonna see who. He's saying, all right, well then let's compete. Let's compete. I don't think he got nothing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love the fact that he's saying let's compete. I don't believe that he got nothing for us. I don't think there's nothing that he can do that's gonna stop the rain that's coming down on them. ESPN, First Take. I'm not going for it, but I like his vigor. I like his candidness. I like the fact that he's ready to compete. I think that this is dope. Prove us wrong.
I thought I couldn't be more fired up about this upcoming year. You think I'm fading? You think First Take is going to fade? You think...
Yes, I do think it's fading.
...that we going to sit up there and lay down and just let others come along, or we going to take them out? Let's go. Let's go. I can't wait. I might come off vacation early because I got time in August, too. I might come off vacation early in August. I can't wait. Hell y'all think this is? Everybody talking about what it used to be. We're number one. And I'm not just talking about First Take. I'm talking about ESPN. See, I got this little agitation that swells up inside of me when I see people talking about the network, particularly people who used to work there. Because if you notice something about me, I will come to my own defense all day, every day. You come at me, I'll come right back at you at my discretion. But what I won't do is constantly lament an employer that was once good enough for me to take money from. That's BS. It really, really is. I'm listening to Dan Le Batard, and I guess that it was some...
This is like WWE, to be honest with you. I don't believe it. I'm not going for it. I think that the number, I mean, you know, we gonna see. We gonna see. I'm taking everything into consideration. When I see how this plays out, I'm taking everything into consideration. And let's be clear, I'm a little bit delayed because I've been a little bit sick and under the weather and everything, but I'm coming for a slice of that pie too. I want that sports pie. I want that sports pie, and everything that we doing over here is 100% independent, ladies and gentlemen. Everything we do, every piece of production, every piece of promotion, every talent that you see rock with me, whoever it is, I want a piece of that pie too.
Some show from the other day, because obviously it was in the aftermath of the layoffs and you know, a sad day, the worst day in the history of ESPN and all of this stuff because of the layoffs. Of course it was a bad day. Of course that's not something you celebrate. Of course you take no joy in folks losing their jobs. I know that, and as I will remind this audience, as sad as I am, and as wishful as I am that every single one of those folks land on their feet and ultimately recapture a prosperous career that they had at ESPN, that they do it somewhere else, I will remind everybody they're casualties of a layoff. Because ESPN lost $5.5 billion. The parks and the theaters. Not the situation in Florida with Governor DeSantis and the don't say gay policy, or so what was labeled that. That ain't the reason. Contrary to what y'all want to believe. See, y'all talking emotion. I have facts. That is not true. Parks, movie theaters, and sporting events disappearing. It's a lot of money to make up for. That's what happened. But y'all talk about, oh my Lord, I'm looking at...
No. Okay, so this is the truth. New operating structure. They brought in the old CEO, which is Bob Iger. They want to cut costs because they want to cut the equivalent of $5.5 billion by eliminating 7,000 jobs, or 4% of its global, the global workforce, right? And this was back in February 2008. It's not that ESPN lost $5.5 billion, is that they want to cut costs by $5.5 billion. And the true nature of it is that ESPN, and this is the thing that people don't understand, ESPN has a lot of debt. When they bought out everything that came along with Avatar and all of the movie studios or whatever, which, you know, then they was competing against Comcast, and a lot of people don't know the history of it. And so, you know, this is one of the reasons why you got to keep these guys in sports, because they know sports, but they don't know the entirety of the situation. I'm not even sure they're familiar with what's going on with their own company. But one of the nails in Disney's coffin was not just what was going on in their fight with the Florida governor, not just what was going on with the parks, especially during the pandemic, not just what was going on with the lack of revenue that's being generated from over there on ESPN, and not just with the bloated, overinflated salaries that they was paying a lot of these guys, but they were competing for content in the streaming wars, especially against the likes of a Netflix and HBO and all of this stuff. So what they did was they competed for different content in which they went against Comcast in order to pay for it, which is how it is that they was able to get the stuff like the avatars and stuff like that, right? So now they're trying to figure out a return on investment. But the other side of that is they're trying to cut costs because they have huge ballooning debt payments because they're sitting on a ton of debt as a company, right? They're not generating as much revenue, especially with the latest Marvel movies, that they were depending on. And so that's why they brought the old CEO back, which is Bob Iger, and then they got to cut over 7,000 jobs, right? So it's not that Disney is losing $5.5 billion, is that they're trying to cut costs because they're making money, but they're also under the thumb of being able to make these debt payments, especially considering that interest rates are going off, and there's more to the story than that. So if they're going to allocate their dollars, they're going to allocate their dollars towards people that are already proven and then things that can generate revenue, and then they're going to take the contracts that they have, especially the ones that they extended, into consideration to do so. So, there's more context to it. It's not just, oh, the parks lost money into that. No, the whole company is losing money, and they're under the thumb in order to try to compete with the likes of the First Takes and the Disney Pluses, and is trying to come in and compete against Netflix and Apple Plus and so on and so forth. That's the truth.
Yeah, Elamin Hassan, rather. I'm sorry to mess up your name, Elamin. You know that. Got love and respect for you. He on the Dan Le Batard show, and he's talking too. And I'm looking at Dan Le Batard, and I'm still disgusted. Still disgusted, even though Dan Le Batard is my friend, and I love him. But I'm still disgusted about how he came at me with that question on his damn show. I hate what you and Skip Bayless have done to sports. Like his ass has been doing accounting. Did you have highly questionable? Was our daddy on the show with us? That was you. You. By the way, I love Mr. Le Batard. Papa De Le Batard. No shade on him either. Please don't take this that way. That's not what I mean by that.
No,
I'm talking about your company.
Don't apologize.
You was on the show just looking at your father saying hi and giving him a hug and a kiss? You were debating. That's what you were doing.
Stand on your square, Stephen A.
It amazes me how somebody like a Dan Le Batard will sit up there and lament the state of affairs in an industry you are participating in. You sitting on the air, I don't know how long ago it was, with Jamel Hill talking about how, you know what, it's a great thing you left. Really? Okay. Probably is. Because I know you're gifted at what you do, and you're a great person. You know I love you, but I'm getting on Dan Le Batard about this a little bit. Why is ESPN always a topic of discussion like this?
Because y'all number one, right?
Coming off like we're losing. Subscribers have diminished. We're in 72 million homes now, not the 90 plus million or even 100 million that we were years ago. Do you have any idea how dominant ESPN in the sports landscape?
Nah, y'all losing. Y'all losing y'all edge. You're losing a lot of edge. Real talk. Let's be clear. You throwing the marketing numbers out and stuff like that, but ESPN has lost their edge. Everybody know it. ESPN is like a hurt dog. It's a wounded lion, and people smell blood. The young bulls is coming, and the young bulls want a part of it. And it's a lot of independent channels and a lot of independent companies. And listen, all of that leveraging what y'all got going on as far as Disney's prowess and in a lot of different households, because you still attached to the cable companies and stuff like that. That's cool. Like, that's cute and all of that. But the reality is that people smell blood in the water. And that's just the truth. People smell blood in the water, and they see that y'all spot is open to be taken over. So ESPN has spent a lot of money to market ESPN by being able to show basketball games. And see, that's the part that they're not telling y'all, right? It's not that they just creating better content than everybody else. Is that they spent a lot of money, or they've spent a lot of money historically being tied to a lot of these organizations, such as the NFL, the NBA. They get to host some of their games. They get to host, a lot of the playoff games and stuff like that. And so people have to tune into that in order to have access to certain things, which is dope. But when it comes to this content creation game and on-air talent and being able to put stuff together and producing shows, yeah, y'all hurt. Y'all hurt. And I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. Y'all hurt. It's blood in the water. And people coming for y'all neck. And that's what happens in competition. That's what happens in a capitalistic society. It's on.
We're number one. No one's close. No one's close. Subscribers have dipped because we have a younger generation with the advent of social media and the digital stratosphere.
Subscribers have dipped because we have a new social media strategy, and with the advent of social media, we got a younger generation of people that's watching it. Okay.
And they found different options other than linear television to watch a product. It's very simple. Dan Le Batard is one of the most brilliant people you will ever meet. He knows this. What you bitching for? What you don't have in subscribers, you have in the digital stratosphere. Lesson to everybody out there, in today's day and age and the direction that the business is going in, if you don't have a footprint within the realms of social media, chances are it's going to be challenging for you to maintain being gainfully employed. Did I say anything disrespectful? Did I say anything false? It's that simple. How do you not know that? Of course you know it. But we don't want to acknowledge that because it's ESPN. We want to sit up there and look at ESPN like the big bad wolf. And then some of you fools out there forgetting that I own this damn podcast. This is my podcast. I decide what I'm going to talk about. I decide what I'm going to say.
Nigga. Nah, nigga. Let's be for real. You know certain subjects you can't broach. And because if you do, and it's a conflict of interest, they're going to be calling you into that front office. Yeah, you can pick what you want to talk about, but just tread carefully.
You've seen me on television for years working for ESPN saying what the hell I wanted to say. All of a sudden, I'm a tippy-toe now that I got my own platform that I own and I operate, that I pay for.
I'm going to try to make it available for y'all to be able to cam up tomorrow. I'm going to be in New York tomorrow, so I got to test my Wi-Fi connection. But I'm going to do the show live from New York tomorrow.
Drugs? What drug are you sniffing? That's not how I roll. But the facts alter, or at least give me cause to pause for a second. Let me give you some of these numbers, y'all. Because naturally, being at ESPN, I can simply call up stats and numbers. Do y'all care to hear any of them? I mean, does it matter to you? Does it matter
Yeah, I
to
want to
y'all?
hear the numbers. I want to hear the numbers.
ESPN Digital remained number one in sports category with 103.5 million unique visitors.
100. Okay, so let me break this down for y'all from an analytical perspective. Hold on. Anton is over here typing because I'm on my regular job while I'm doing whatever it is that we do. You know how us black folks do. Anton got to respond to the people. I had to go over there and get my computer real quickly. Unique visitors is much different than a visitor, right? So let's say, for example, you go to a site and you go to multiple different sites and then you leave and then you come back, right? That's two visitors, but a unique visitor is one person doing the same thing multiple different times. So he's saying that it's a unique visitor, meaning that's a unique person. Each individual person is a unique visitor versus how many hits you get to a site, right? A hit, you can go to a site and give it 20 hits by going to different portions of the site or whatever, so on and so forth, right? And so it's different metrics that we use in order to determine whether or not you're putting out good content. So, for example, somebody can get a lot of views on a video, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they create compelling content to be able to retain an audience. They may have had a great thumbnail, they may have had a good title, but then when the people start watching the video, they don't stick around long enough to be able to actually listen to what they're saying any longer than 30 seconds because it's not compelling, right? So, watch time factors into that, right? Views are cool. Being able to retain an audience, that's more effective. How long do they watch? How long did it take for them to be able to click off? All of those things are different metrics, unique visitors versus a hit. So he's trying to break down the numbers to substantiate that, how much greater ESPN is. I want to know how much greater First Take is, but let's just go ahead and see the numbers. I haven't seen this part.
ESPN Digital achieved its best May ever by unique visitors, surpassing its next competitor by a record-breaking margin of 39.8 million. The runner
May. What month we in? July?
would be Yahoo Sports, who's pretty damn good, by the way.
He's saying ESPN Digital. So I'm assuming that if somebody go over to the ESPN application or if somebody go over to the ESPN site, they want to see who got the next big contract, all of that stuff, right? So Yahoo Sports is a website where people can go to and they say, oh, what happened during the fight? Let me see what the score is. ESPN Digital is like the website where people go in and they see what happened in the boxing match, what happened to the scores. They want to see what the line is on the numbers, all of that stuff, right? So this is what he's breaking down.
CBS is behind that. Bleacher Report is behind that. Sports Illustrated is behind that. Minute Media, the Players Tribune, is behind that. STN Video is behind that. USA Today Sports Media Group is behind that. Whistle Network is behind that. Major League Baseball is behind that. What y'all talking to us like we losing for? And I say we because that's my day job. What y'all think y'all doing? I'm just tired of listening to folks bantering back and forth and acting like, listen, it's hard times, it's hard times, it's hard times. I mean, what has happened to the worldwide leader? What has happened to ESPN? Business has happened. May of 2003, ESPN laid off 400 staffers. Where were y'all then? Oh, you were employed by ESPN. November 2015, ESPN laid off 300 staffers. Where were you then? Oh, you were employed by ESPN. April 2017, 100 on-air talent was laid off. What was the number the other day, fellas? 20. 100 were laid
Yeah, but it's a difference between laying off staffers and laying off talent. Because when you start laying off talent, that's how you know it's blood in the water. It's a completely different thing. If you lay off an administrator, if you lay off a producer, you lay off a camera guy, you can easily replace those people, right? But when you're talking about the face and the representation of a company, it's a completely different conversation. And so I think that Stephen A. is smart enough to be able to know this.
laid off in 2017. 100. November 2017, 150 staffers.
So it's been blood in the water for a long time.
6 months later, 150 staffers laid off. November 2020, 300 staffers laid off. Let me do my math here. 800, 1,100, 1,250 folks have been laid off by ESPN since May of 2013.
Blood
No one was surprised.
in the water.
Because when you're represented by a company like Disney and you have stockholders and shareholders to answer to, and you have budgets that you have to meet, and the mandate is that you lost $5.5 billion, this is what comes with it.
You know, I'm wondering, because I'm not an investor in Disney, so I don't really know. I'm trying to figure out if Disney breaks out the numbers of how it is. I'm gonna try to find that out for y'all tomorrow, and I'm gonna break this out in order to try to substantiate this argument. Because what I'm curious is, and shout out to Ash, I'm about to read these super chats shortly. This is enough. We don't need to see anymore. What I'm curious about, sometimes, a lot of times, I just read the title. Y'all send me the videos, and then I review them here. What I'm curious about is whether or not Disney breaks out individual numbers as to what unit is generating what. So the movies division is generating X amount of dollars. ESPN is generating X amount of dollars. Disney Plus is generating X amount of dollars. But I know they break out the subscriber growth numbers, but often at times they don't always break out individual segments to where you can actually know whether or not it's losing or winning. They have it all as like, hey, the media group is doing this, and this is doing it. The movie segment is doing this. You know what I'm saying? So it's not always fully broken out because ESPN or Disney, they own a lot of different units. And so they'll say something and they'll put a nice name to it and they'll say the digital part of it, right? But then we don't know that the digital aspect of it may not just be ESPN. It could be including Disney Plus, which also has ESPN content on it. You know what I'm saying? Or it could be YouTube TV, and they have ESPN content on it. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive. And this is one of the reasons why I always tell y'all, when you invest in something, you need to understand it fully. You got to go through. You got to see the numbers. You got to see where they're growing at, where they having attrition at. Are they having natural attrition, or are they just trying to hurry up and get people laid off? Are they implementing artificial intelligence? Are they sourcing their budgets and using it effectively to find new talent? Are they curating new talent? You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to try to deep dive into that, and I'm going to find out what those true numbers are if they are available for us. Because if they're available, then they're going to be publicly available. But I'm going to find out what those numbers are very, very shortly, and we're going to figure it out.